Tough for the rest of us here. Go, Greg. You're pretty much going to dispense with teamwork, it seems, for spring at this point.
We are. Seen enough, know enough where we currently are, found some key players maybe in backup roles here or there, and we've shifted, as you can see, the last 2 practices toward getting ready for player run practices, which is a 3.5 to almost 4-month period, which I think is going to give us more benefit than the possible risk of injury for a day or 2 left in spring.
Are the player practices going to be more regimented this offseason than they ever have been before, or is it just more visible with early prep time?
This particular spring and this particular team, with the leadership we have and what we think we're going to get out of that, we think it will be the best and prepared the best that we've ever done. And so I think it's just the right timing.
You had Blair Tusshouse go down?
Yeah, Blair in a one-on-one drill. What day is today? Wednesday. On Monday. Kind of maybe an MCL. It's not a significant thing. If there's any surgery, it'll be a scope. But he was doing one-on-one and just his foot kind of caught. It was on the turf inside, but it's not serious. It's not season altering. It's just kind of a drag to miss the last 2 days.
Kevin said meniscus on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
On the 2 return missionary quarterbacks, are you going to consider maybe redshirting one, or is that too early to say just because
too early to say? Then the good news is we have summer, spring, fall camp, and we'll have a lot. If the summer practices go the way I think they will, we'll have a really good idea maybe mid-fall camp as to what we might do, and because we have so many that reps could only be distributed to probably 2 with a 3rd getting some, and so we'll have to make that decision at some point.
You've moved Austin Jorgensen back to Sam. It looks like
Austin wanted to come back. He was hoping for a chance, I think, to break into maybe a little bit more playing time, maybe a more significant role, and
at fullback.
At fullback, and so the depth now we have him at outside linebacker. We'll work with Coach Papinga. We have at that spot Spencer Hadley and Alani Fua, so there's good players, but he would give us 3 deep there, which would be good.
Last year, you guys announced team captains after the spring. What's your plan?
Yeah, I was hopeful at that point and really believed, and I think looking back at it, it was a mistake, but I felt it was right at that time. Our leadership council is named, and with 29 seniors, I don't feel a need to anoint or designate leaders at this point as captains. That'll happen after fall camp like we've done the previous 6 years. So I experimented a year ago. Thought I was doing the right thing at the right time, but for that team, I didn't like just some of the byproducts that I didn't see coming, and so yeah.
What was the mistake part of that, do you think?
Hard to know. Just you try to predict and think that maybe if you anoint or if the team votes for a couple of captains there through spring, well, a lot of times there are hurt players that are very, very good players that have a lot of influence that the team kind of forgets about a little bit during spring and doesn't see them. And so I don't think ultimately they were given enough consideration. We built in special teams captains that ended up kind of giving us that chance. But with the number of injuries that happened in spring, I underestimated that the players wouldn't take those guys into account, even though they were significant contributors. And it's literally the out of sight, out of mind when it comes to practice, and how much that weighted on the voting. I didn't see that coming.
Bronco, talk about Ziggy and just, he's becoming a football player, and just now he's learning 2 different positions.
He's more than a football player. He is talented, and he now understands the game, and he's now playing 2 positions when 2 years ago he didn't know how to put on his equipment. I mean, that transition in 2 years, there might be a chance for him based on his year with his size and speed and the way he plays special teams. He might play after college, which is he's not even on scholarship. It could be a tremendous story. And again, I don't want the prediction or the headline to be that Ziggy Ansah NFL player, but if he continues to do what he's done the past 2 and does that this year, that wouldn't be out of the question, which that would be a remarkable story.
It seems frequently that you have players move from one position to another. This year you've had players learning multiple positions. Is that common, or is this a little different this year with some of these guys doing these like Ziggy is?
Little different with a little bit more experience to provide some depth to never put us at risk based on who we're playing, and if we lose one, we have cross-trained someone else. So we're actually adding depth without actually adding players, which is nice to be able to do because they're in the system long enough to be able to do that.
Do you think that's something you'll look at doing more in the future?
Man, I'd love to. And that the key to that is keeping players trained well enough at different classes to where when one leaves, the next one is already trained and ready to go, and he's been in the system long enough where he not only knows his spot, but he understands the defense well enough where you can insert him somewhere else, and he still knows what that job is supposed to be and how to do it. And that's, I think, program maturity is reflective of that a little bit.
Back to Ziggy, what was your first impression when you saw him come in here? You talked about how he couldn't even put his equipment.
He came into my office and talked first about the chance to play football, and I described it, and I said, number one, I don't know you, and I don't trust you, and I don't even know if you can make it through a workout. And so he went, and I certainly didn't believe he'd ever play after watching him go through winter conditioning because he couldn't get enough oxygen, to finish a drill. And didn't look like he wanted to very bad, and then his English is kind of broken, so he wasn't communicating very well, which I was then thinking he wasn't interested or wasn't passionate about trying, and he just kept showing up every day, and which I was wondering why. I never thought he would even make it to fall camp, and he did, and then we helped him put his stuff on, and the rest is kind of history. But yeah, unlikely it would be an understatement that I believed he'd be at this point.
Can I ask about a few guys that Kevin didn't have?